Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. Thank you for joining us again today on the Polyhedra show. Oh, FTC. What?
Hi.
How you going today, man?
Mm-hmm. Haven't seen you guys for a week.
Yeah, man. It's been a busy week. I haven't seen you for a week, man. You guys, you've been heads down, like as the general of our army of developers and engineers. You guys have been working hard. So I haven't had the chance to catch up with you in a week, man. You've been that busy, but how's the last week been for you, bro?
It's super busy. I mean, there's still a lot of garbage in the code. I would say I don't I don't quite comfortable with that. So I just head down and clean that garbage. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Well, it's great to see. I mean, I know you guys have been that busy. We've obviously had such great feedback so far on Ocash. We are back again today to talk about Ocash. Even though there's been so much happening in the industry and across our whole stack, it's relevant. It's such an exciting time for the team right now. Everything going on with Ocash, and I know that you guys have been super, super busy. But let me preface this for everybody who may not have tuned in last week, or doesn't may not be crypto native and knowing what's going on. So essentially, money is going on chain, right? So stable coins, tokenized payments, crypto rails. It's not speculation anymore. This is infrastructure. In 2025 alone, stable coins processed over $4 trillion in volume, which is pretty crazy. It's a new, digital backbone of finance. But there is one huge problem that everybody's talking about, and has been in the common vernacular over the last couple of months, especially, which is privacy and on-chain money being public by default, especially crypto being on public by default. So your salary, your net worth, your spending history, all of this is exposed to everybody. And the world is essentially demanding a new rail here. So TC and the team asks, what if the rails for cash had built-in privacy, but was able to stay, lawful and auditable, which is why TC has built Ocash, which is essentially the first brick in a larger vision for an open cash system that is private by default, but auditable, when needed. So today we did a little bit of a dive last week, TC, but this week we're going to open up the conversation a little bit and talk about why this isn't just cool, like a cool feature. This is like a necessary infrastructure play by Polyhedra. So TC, man, let's jump it off. So, okay, stablecoins are booming, man, and the data is clear. It's showing over 30% of all crypto transactions, over 30% of all crypto transactions globally were stablecoins. We're seeing major banks and platforms like Klarna, for example, launching their own stablecoins. What have you seen recently, particularly that makes this moment so critical for Ocash?
Well, the scale itself is where it shows a critical sign. The volume surpassed the combined volume of like Visa and Mastercard, I think.
Yeah,
And
crazy.
the 4 trillion volume alone is so crazy. So I think
Yeah.
that's a very big critical moment. So we should build a system that help people to keep them private, and it's very important for institutional adoption because they don't want other people to see their financial stuffs. And also with privacy, you also need compliance. So regulatory policies are necessary in the system. right? If you don't do that, then it will become a system filled with terrorists or criminals, and it will not be a good one. It will be banned everywhere. Yeah.
Totally, man. Like, you make a really good point. Obviously, regulators are now focused with this like huge onboarding that we're seeing. I mean, banks are now issuing their own stable coins, right? Like we've seen. I was reading about Bank of America, Goldman Sachs. I think it was like UBS Dutch. They're actively exploring their own like G7 kind of peg stable coins. So if banks are onboarding like stablecoin rails now, the real question becomes like, what privacy layer will these billions or trillions in flows settle on? Obviously banks aren't going to use public transaction graphs. It's out of the
Yeah.
question for obvious reasons. I mean, we can dive into that if people don't understand it, or just hit us up on our Discord if you want some more information. But I think that's pretty clear. They need private compliant cash rails, which is exactly what Ocash provides, right? So, there's been, we'll dive into this later. There's been other alternatives that was like what we call dark cash. But it doesn't, it doesn't fit into a regulated financial system where there's privacy, like where what we have now in fiat and all of our systems, there's privacy for users and there's visibility for regulators. But in crypto, there isn't yet. And this is the solution to that. And man, I'm really excited about this. This is like a huge like aha moment. I know that you guys have been working on this for a while. I know that the regulatory scene wasn't great to introduce it, say like 3 months ago or before, when you guys had already built this. But now is the perfect time. And yeah, it's really exciting, man. I know that like internally the team's been really excited. I know that you guys have been working super hard. I know that our community is really excited about this one. We haven't put any push behind it. We're still obviously in testnet. How is everything going with testnet, man?
Looks good. Looks good. And we're actually introducing a lot of improvements in the new version. Will be pushed, I think, maybe in 1 week. Um, and we are looking at the mobile. So I'm looking at the compatibility on phones. It's still
Awesome.
problematic a little bit because the ticket journal proof actually consumes a lot of resource, and some form doesn't have that. We are looking at optimizing it. Yeah.
Right. I know a lot of people that I've been talking to have been asking that exact question about mobile and the app and the roadmap. And I've obviously seen the roadmap and I know where we're heading, and it's really exciting. And obviously there's like enterprise discussions and all of this, but I want this conversation to be more like, I want to break it down for everybody who may not understand or necessarily be like like part of our community. They're very well aware of everything that's going on, and they've been great at contributing to this. So shout out to everybody in the community too. I'll say some names at the end, but they've been absolutely awesome through, and super excited about this launch. But I mean, it feels like stablecoins are winning, man. Like in a way that they've never done before. I mean, crypto is getting so much more visibility, and it's on ramping so much more. But public chain obviously right now equals public ledger, right? So maybe we can just for everybody, like maybe we can break down simply like what's wrong with that whole thesis for modern businesses. Maybe you can explain for everybody this whole glass vault kind of analogy.
Sort of. So I think there, in most users' mind, there is a misconception that blockchain inherently private. Okay, let me correct that. That's not true. Every single action you did on chain is actually traceable and public to everybody else. So basically, what you did, for example, if you use blockchain to purchase a phone, then your all everybody in the planet knows that, including your family, including, for example, your teacher or whatever. Uh, yeah. So I think that's pretty much the first thing we need to say. Okay, public chain almost equal to public ledger. Okay, then we need to look at it. Well, how to solve it, and it's quite a critical issue for modern business to integrate with chains, right? For example, if you want to use the chain as your ledger system, and if you want to operate a small business, current public chains are well expose all your financial stuff, financial data on to other people. Pretty much it, and that's a very big barrier for institutional users or for even small business to enter this area, to use this new technology. And if okay, there are some other stuffs like fully private chains still, but for example, like Tornado Cash or Zcash, but there is a compliance gap. Okay,
Absolutely,
they're
yeah.
they're kind of full private. Nobody knows what's going on in the space.
Totally. I've got a question I wanted to ask you about that and dive down that rabbit hole, because there are alternatives, but they're not compliant. There's no way to make them compliant. They are, inherently, a black box financially that doesn't allow for any kind of auditability. But it's really interesting, like you mentioned enterprises there, and I've worked a lot with enterprises, like in outside of Web3, right? I've consulted a lot with these businesses. I've done a lot in this space, and I know for a fact that no enterprise will ever move their core business log, like their logic and their logs, onto a public ledger. Like, it just won't happen. You're not broadcasting your profit and loss statements, your vendor lists, your supply chain data, your proprietary treasury strategies to every competitor out there. Like, it's not going to happen. This has been the biggest roadblock to enterprise adoption to Web3 and crypto and Web3 at large. Really, there's been a huge gap there, and watching what you guys have done, has been really interesting in terms of one, like the Web3 space, making it in a way, like making it interoperable, making it compliant, and making it private. That was a big move. And then now in the financial space, making this huge move is pretty impressive, because transparency does not equal compliance, right? The current system, it offers all public or totally secret. Yeah.
I need to clear that transparency actually equals compliance, because the auditor or regulator can see everything. They can try to find out who is the criminal, but it's not friendly to innocent users.
Yeah. So it doesn't. What I mean is, doesn't need to be transparency for everyone, but there needs to be a transparent aspect to it. There needs to be two verticals that are linked, not one or the other. And it's interesting that the first, obviously, most successful product launched by Polyhedra was ZK Bridge, and this seems like a bridge between compliance and privacy. It's followed the same logic, so it's really cool. Very, very cool, man. And I'm obviously very excited about it, and I can't wait to see where it goes. But let's talk about the alternatives here, man. So privacy coins, like you mentioned, like Zcash, mixes exist, Tornado Cash, etc. So let's be very clear: what makes Ocash different?
Well, we protect innocent people and we expose criminals. That's it.
Nice.
That's it. That's pretty simple. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love that. I just want to comment really quickly on what you like. Just while I have this in mind, you mentioned before about growing faster than Visa. I did read a report by McKinsey, I believe it was, may have been another one of these big consultancy firms. I think it was McKinsey, without talking about tokenized cash rails is the fastest growing payments infrastructure in the world, right? So if stablecoins do become the settlement layer of the internet, someone needs to build the privacy layer beneath them. And no one yet has stepped up to the plate that can do that in a manner that is compliant across regulatory, infrastructure. So this is like a huge thing, right? I just don't want to downplay like the the importance of what is currently in the market and what we're talking about here. This hasn't been done, and this is like a huge step forward. Like, there's no version of trillion-dollar transactions where the underlying rails, support privacy, compliance, and auditability yet. And this is the step towards that. So it's super cool, man. But I digress again. Let's move on. I want to focus on the everyday person, because I talk to the community a lot. I'm obviously talking to a lot of our ecosystem, and the question that I get a lot, man, is, the utility, like who is the immediate user? How does this solve their compliance needs? Like who, are we aiming for, enterprise? Are we aiming for, everyday users? Are we aiming for like people onboarding to crypto? So like who uses this? Why now? And maybe like give me an idea of what you're thinking of the first major customer for Ocash.
First major customer, first one is, I think it's enterprise and institutional user who pays their employees, who pays their collaborators. And then the second tier is obviously their employees or individuals who want to have a more convenient cash system that can be used globally without interruption. And so that's pretty much two collected logic stuff, right? First one, enterprise, then they use the system to pay money to their staff, to their employee, and all of these employees together becomes individuals that use the system, right? So two parts of it: in individuals use it in daily life, which obviously need privacy, right? And enterprise user use it, and which also need privacy. And on top of that is regulator who checks, who defines what kind of money is a good money, what kind of user is good user, and they use a selective disclosure feature to selectively find who is criminal and trying to prevent such transaction from happening, or just ban the user. Yeah. So the logic is actually you have a automated code. It's not defined by human. It's defined by code that who is wrong in the system. And of course the code can change, but that sort of change is public, so everybody can see what's going on in the system. It's kind of transparent and also private. So you have a transparent set of rules that you cannot break. If you break it, you will become bad user, and your money will obviously be frozen. And if you don't break such rules, you will be totally fine. So the major distinction between this one and other stuff, for example, exchange, is that we cannot arbitrarily lock your account, right? It's similar to a
Got you.
DEX. It's quite similar to a
Hmm.
DEX in this kind of sense, and it's private.
Very cool, man. I love that. I obviously, like, I do a lot of consulting with um, international startups and these kinds of things, where this has been a huge issue for the past, especially 3 years, I would say, has been the most like visceral problems. This is something that I know that you identified a long time ago, and I remember talking to you, man, maybe like, it must have been like at least 12 months ago when we're talking about that, when I think we were in Hong Kong, and we're talking about this, and I was just like, man, I understand, especially with, there's a global liquidity pool, I would say, that I've seen from, like, say boomers and this generational changes, and there's a lot more push, and there's been this huge push into crypto, obviously, but like global transactions, they're hard, man, with traditional banking,
Hmm.
because there's different KYC, all of this stuff, and there's been these really cool, Revoluts and these cool kind of platforms that have popped up that have helped to normalize that, and everybody's working on a global, even everyone's working globally now. Like, teams are global. We're not. I'm in Bali. I'm in China. We've got our team in the States. We got team members in Europe. Like, and where it allows us to be on 24/7, but like the financial rails seem to be behind startup and global innovation rails, right? Which has created this huge demand for crypto, but this has been the missing piece. you know uh Remittance networks, for corporates and enterprises, treasury flows, payments, all of this stuff. It's really, really cool. I've got to ask you, man. I know that we've chatted a little bit about this, but we've had a lot of people from our community asking about, like, white label SDKs. I know you spoke about this a little bit last week, but I think that's a huge piece of this conversation. So what does that look like on the roadmap, for fintech, for these kind of digital banks like Revolut? Can Ocash provide the rails to offer stablecoin transfers? Like, how does that look?
Well, it will be look like just as a normal SDK as a cash system should use,
Mm-hmm.
and the privacy protection is enabled by default. So it will include transfer, or it will include withdrawal, it will include the deposit, all kinds of functions that you think in your mind that you think that a cash system should have, it will have. Yeah. And I think that SDK is quite a necessary tool for automated traders to get into the system. It's an entrance. And right now, we only have the website. Well, I mean, the website, and we can only interact the system with browser. But if you enable SDK, if you enable APIs, okay, it will be 99. I think about 19% of bots in that system trying to
Mm-hmm.
provide service. Yeah,
Yeah, got you.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that, like, there's I saw the ECB warned that stable coins are draining, like, they're like put out this alarm, like, stable coins are draining deposits from European banks. you know like, if anyone that understands economics understands that, there needs to be, like a stabilization, at scale. Like, things can change over time, but stable coins, they may be siphoning away from banks, and I think that this isn't a niche issue anymore. It may have been, maybe, even 12 months ago, 18 months ago. uh, but stable coins are threatening traditional finance. Regulators are really, like, they care deeply now about tracing the flows and enforcing this kind of compliance. It's not really the wild west of crypto anymore. Um, you know, I've seen this in my own networks a lot. So I think that Ocash kind of this technology, this selective disclosure technology, it solves both sides of this problem, right? Like it protects the user privacy and it meets regulatory audit needs. And that's really important because, like you've pointed out, this helps like the good people and the people who are trying to do things properly. And it pretty much bars anyone who's trying to do things nefariously, right? So it's exactly the kind of infrastructure that regulators want to see. It's what they've been demanding, and it's what all of the people who are doing things properly and being fair, especially at an enterprise scale, which is what we're talking about. They need to be able to follow the rules and prove that they're following the rules and doing right by everybody else. This is exactly what they've been demanding too before they could onboard to this industry. So yeah, it's really, really cool, man. I love it. But let's get to, I want to talk about the roadmap here a little bit.
Sure.
Let's dive into this, DC, because I know you're a big picture kind of guy, and I know like every time that I've hung out with you, you've got these big ass dreams, man, and you seem to always have the answer to get there. So the beginning, what's coming next? Like, what does this larger highway, what does this big picture look like for you?
Well, as I said before, 90%. I would like to see 90% of bot transactions. So next big thing is obviously the SDK. And
Yeah.
next one should be the first bot transacting on the network. And we would like to see some banks trying to collaborate with us, and we can finally see them issue their own money on the blockchain. And that's three things, I think, major things in the future, maybe happening in 1 or 2 months.
Yeah. 1 or 2 months. I love that, man. And I think that's, all of the signal that I'm seeing is that's where it's going. Talking to the team internally, that seems like where it's going. Yeah, it's really fascinating, man. Like, like the enterprise, the enterprise scale of things versus, like the average day user, I think it can't be understated. Because I think like the average person doesn't really think in terms of enterprise scale. That they obviously there's going to be a lot of everyday users and like a lot of our community and everyone who's on the test net is like, wow, this is amazing, this is really cool, and there's going to be a lot of applications there. But it's really the enterprise level that's going to blow the roof off this thing, man. And you mentioned they're like agents. I want to get your opinion on this. So, do you see enterprise themselves using these rails and crypto rails and private transactions, auditable private transactions at scale? Like, do you see that as the bigger pillar, or agentic transactions, whether through SMBs, new startups, or enterprises themselves? What do you think is going to be the biggest, transaction volume?
I think our agents will make a lot of volumes, even bigger than enterprise. I mean, but enterprise users, they're kind of important because they create new values, and people are they're making monies, right? They're making money, and I think that's why we can grow. And for agents, they're trying to help help people. I mean, it's not real agents. It's just, for example, if it's just my my third hand on the network. It's human third hand. I mean, Um, I would say both are important, both, and agents may, obviously is a more attractive story than enterprise. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more interesting one, but enterprise obviously provides a solid foundation to this system. Yeah.
Agreed, man. And everything obviously seen a lot of, I mean, we can talk about this maybe next week, but all the upgrades with Egg Party has been super cool to see. I know that a lot of our community has been playing with that. Fun for me too, man. I'm a creative and I love diving into that stuff. So I know the team has been 100% focused on Ocash, but I really I just want to throw that out there. It's been really, really cool to see that you've dedicated. I mean, I know that this was all precursing Ocash, but see that you guys are still working across so much there. Man, I know we've gone over 30 minutes, but I do want to run through a few community questions because I promised the guys and gals that I would ask these
Go through it.
questions. I know
Go through it.
some of them seem obvious, and we may have answered them before, but I just want to get really clear on this stuff, right? Okay, so I've lost who asked this question. It may have been Uncle or Tom, but okay. Well, will regulators treat Ocash like a privacy coin or a legit payment rail?
Of course, legit payment rail. Right. We will closely collaborate with all of these regulators. Yeah,
Awesome.
that's how
Yeah, I mean
we.
it's very much not a privacy coin, and it goes
Well,
without saying
it is
that
a privacy coin.
ZKJ is not either, right?
It is a. I mean the Ocash it will serve privacy coin, as I said, but it will not serve criminals
Yeah. So I
or
mean
terrorists.
it allows okay, let's get very clear on this, right? So tell me if I'm wrong here. It allows any coin to act like a privacy coin but still be
Yeah,
regulated and auditable.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Nailed it. Hell yeah, man. That's what's so exciting. I mean, there's so much excitement. There's been so much excitement around these platforms and around stablecoin. Every stablecoin, altcoin to act and have the same benefits as these other as privacy coins and as mixes, but with by being legal and by being auditable when needed, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Okay, the next question, I think that we just answered that, which is how it
Yeah,
differs from coins or mixes.
good.
Okay, so one big question that a lot of people have been asking is when can devs start integrating via API, SDK? What's the roadmap looking like, man?
Well, I think I mentioned it in the beginning of this show. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're pretty much busy cleaning the code base, since we kind of rushed a bit. And well, after the cleaning, I think the cleaning should be done in 1 or 2 weeks, and we should see the API and SDK in 1 or 2 months.
Epic, man.
Uh,
TC, it's my birthday on the 16th of December. Will we have mainnet for my birthday? Are you giving me a birthday present, man?
yeah, sure. So next question.
Thanks, man. I love it. Okay, so maybe let's just dial in. I know a lot of people have been asking about this as well in terms of time, costs, fees, these kinds of things. Compared to one, maybe to stablecoin transfers. Two, maybe to even with fiat. A lot of banking transfers can take between 7-10% sometimes. I've experienced with international banks. Is this a way to cut that down? And
Yeah.
kind of what does that look like?
Well, we have a fixed cost, I think several cents per transaction. Really depends on
Wow.
the gas, but well, cents.
Yeah.
Um, I think we will charge a very small amount of percentage of fee. I mean, we are still designing it. It will obviously be lower than banks. Yeah.
Cool, man. And at scale, that looks like, I mean, if we're able to do that for a fraction on the dollar as compared to banks or, even current stablecoin transfers, I mean, and have it in that same ballpark, that's a huge field that the team is playing in, and really looks amazing for the future. Over time today, TC. But I mean, to be fair, I didn't get to catch up with you this week, so I wanted to have a bit of a yarn with you, man. But really, really cool. Thank you so much for joining us, bro.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. And I mean, look, just to wrap this up, the way I see it, crypto, it promised everybody financial freedom. It gave financial exposure, unfortunately, but with Ocash, we get to build money rails that respect privacy, uphold compliance, and can act at scale. So what we're talking about here is shielded cash, not secret cash. It's private by default, and it's auditable when it counts. So that's the future I think money needs. It's the future that I want. It's the future that many people I talk to want. It's the future that enterprise needs. And that's why Ocash matters. Thank you again for joining us today, OC. Thanks for us on the Polyhedra show again. TC, man, we're going to be back again next Thursday, yeah?
Yeah. See you
Sounds
next week.
good, man. See you next week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.